Final race of the season in the 2025 GT Cup Europe comes from the Temple of Speed at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. A final 50-minute encounter for this mix of Porsche Cup machinery, Lamborghini Supercifers and Ferrari Challenge machinery as well. Yesterday it was Q1 Track Racing who reignited their hopes of a team's championship with a 1-2 finish, a spectacular end to the race with Goncalo Fernandez and Lars Zanen taking their second victory of the season in 2025, and they were joined by their Pro-Am teammates Nicolas Salins and Laura van den Hegel, Nicolas Salins and Stinas Longen in the podium, with ZRS Motorsports completing the podium, which was not enough to keep the championship alive. Yesterday, it was Ian Rodriguez and Luca Franca who sealed the championship with a 5th place finish for the Fimes team. Their first year in competition and winning the championship. This morning in qualifying, though, it was a very close affair indeed. Just a few thousandths of a second between Fabio Babini and Pietro Armani going in the Tsunami Racing team's favour. Fabio Babini, who's just wrapped up the GT Open 500 race, the 500-kilometre finale in the GT3 car from Tsunami, now getting aboard the Cup car that he shares with Davide Scanicio and will be starting from pole position with ZRS Motorsport for company on the front row of the grid. The newly crowned champions starting third with Daniel Casaniga, a big surprise in the championship from the SP Racing team, the coach and manager of Andrea Gali, who will be lining up on the second row of the grid as well. That's the car that will be starting first in the AM classification. Ivan Velasco back with us in GT Cup Europe, two-time champion of this series in Ferrari machinery, and rejoined with Annie Frozio, his former garage mate in that aggressive Team Italia run car. But the AM Championship also sealed yesterday in favour of Dieter Schweppes and Leandro Martins for the second consecutive year. And of course, Laura van den Hengel and Paul Meyer wrapping up the Pro-Am Championship as well. But the team's title still to be decided. And George Morgan alongside me in the commentary box. Q1 Track Racing and Fimes team level on points.
Yep, big peace signs on offer from Paul Meyer, now a Pro-Am champion, of course, alongside Laura van den Hengel, as we fly through with our helicopter cam to the front end of the grid, where Fabio Babini will be starting on pole position. Soon to hand over to Davide Scanicio. Pietro Armani, they will be meeting him every which way. Unfortunately for Armani and Longoni, the job is done for Ian Rodriguez and Luca Franca, champions in the GT Cup Europe Championship. And as you so rightly mentioned, Laura van den Hengel, Paul Meyer, obviously being lifted aloft as champions in Pro-Am, with Dieter Schweppes, Leandro Martins going back-to-back and landing a big blow for the Brazilian team. This race largely centred around the team's championship fight, where Fimes team have been in control, certainly for a long stretch. The closest comparison, though, to them is Q1 Track Racing, though by and large, Fimes team have had largely a decent visit here to Monza at a home race for Luca Franca that has captured him the crown, which makes it even all the more special. But 50 minutes of racing until we bring an end to our final race weekend of the season. Can you believe how we have already managed to move our way through 6 rounds of action? It all kicked off at Portimao, didn't it, folks, in April, where we did witness some masterful racing from both Rodriguez and Franca, and also Longoni and Armani taking wins apiece in the very first weekend of the 2K25 Championship. Let's see if they can send us off in style before we do it all over again in 2026 in April.
That'll be back in Portimao before you know it, with a fresh batch of young drivers coming through the ranks. There is Fabio Babini in the Tsunami Racing Team Porsche. There's a heck of a squabble for pole position between himself and Armani and Rodriguez. Only a few hundredths in the end separating the 3 cars. Pietro Armani, hoping to end this season on a high, a two-time winner already, alongside Ludovico Longoni in that ZRS Motorsport run car. ZRS concluding their first year back in the championship. Fimes team with Black Dome concluding their first season in competition, and what a season it has been as well. With SP Racing here fielding a second car here. Daniel Casaniga been racing in Porsche Cup Swiss with his bronze driver Andrea Gali.
Very impressive in quali as well this morning, I have to say, on Daniele Casaniga's part.
And there's the Q1 track racing car that won yesterday, Goncalo Fernandez starting the number 53. This is the car that finished second yesterday, Nicola Salins. And it was a Q1 track racing 1-2 after the easy race Ferrari, and Lorenzo Bontempelli driving, we believe, ran out of fuel with just a couple of laps to go. A wave there from Annie Frozio and Ivan Velasco, reunited here in GT Cup, both former teammates to Jorge Cabezas, who won the driver's title with Ivan Velasco a couple of years ago. Go on to win the title again with Ivan, with Luca Ludwig. Oh, dramas for our newly crowned AM champions, though. The LMR 911 of Dieter Schweppes has parked up at the side of the road on the way to the grid. Now, what could have happened there for that car to not even make it to the grid? They were due to start second in the AM class and 8th overall.
Well, I mean, that is heartbreak, obviously, for them not to conclude the weekend in some kind of style. And we move back to Matteo Lovisi, we'll await to hear news. According to the timing screen, it says 911 will not be on the grid. And so car 93 must respect the gap. So even though, despite the 911 not making the grid, as the timing screen suggests, obviously the 93 has got to treat it as if it's there as we undertake the formation lap procedure before getting the race firmly underway. And there it is, in fact, just in behind. Obviously, just getting set ready for us to go racing as we queue up down the grid and oversee our string of cars. It's the final frontier in the GT Cup Europe.
This is what happened yesterday. Paul Meyer with engine trouble, struggling to keep his Burgers Motorsport car at the head of the field and skating off the road as well after contact for Fabio Di Falba in the easy race Ferrari. Paul Meyer tried to fight his way back up the order, and then this was contact between the two cars fighting for the championship, with ZRS clashing with Fimes team down at the Rettifilio. Laura van den Hengel took over the Paul Meyer car, found herself in a squabble, cars either side of her going through the Alboreto curve, and it wasn't a podium finish, but she would go on to claim the championship, as we saw the Fimes team car make its way back up the order. And then dramas for the race leader, Lorenzo Bontempelli, slow with a couple of laps remaining, and that gave it to Goncalo Fernandez and Lars Zanen for their second victory of the season, moving them up to third in the championship as well. A 1-2 finish for Q1 track racing, and so it is Luca Franca and Ian Rodriguez who have sealed the 2025 GT Cup Europe Championship, but the team standings still all to play for, with Q1 track racing and Fimes team level on 52 points apiece going into the final race. Formation lap underway, 50 minutes of racing to come. Here is how they line up. Fabio Babini starts the Tsunami Porsche from pole position, ahead of Pietro Armani for ZRS Motorsport. 2025 champion Ian Rodriguez starts ahead of Daniel Casaniga for SP Racing. Then on the third row of the grid, it's the top two from yesterday's race. Goncalo Fernandez leading Nicola Salins, 53 ahead of 11. Then the first of our AM cars, Ivan Velasco in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. There'll be a gap on the grid where Dieter Schweppes is supposed to be. So it's Eugenio Pisani in 9th position, then Matteo Lovisi in 10th position. Cosimo Papi and Nathan Bronze continue the AM contingent for Ebby Motors and Q1 Track Racing, respectively. Then a pair of GDL cars, H. DeMello ahead of Giacomo Gibergia on the 7th row of the grid. Donovan Privitello was having pirouettes into the first corner yesterday in his Lamborghini. He starts ahead of Florin Tincescu for RO1 Racing. Then it's Gianluca Giorgia in the number 70 ahead of Laura van den Hengel, the newly crowned Pro-Am champion, in 18th. 19th is Peter Furter in the sole remaining LMR car now. Luigi Peroni for Ebby Motors goes from 20th. Then it's René Paulsen in the guest-entered Halda Motorsport Porsche. Lorenzo Bontempelli for Easy Race, hoping to make up for yesterday's disappointment. And then Riccardo Romagnoli didn't set a time in qualifying. He goes from the back of the grid for the Team Cars Racing outfit. So the cars getting the final opportunity to put some heat into the Michelin rubber. George incredibly close at the head of the field in qualifying. And let's see what happens when they get down towards turn 1.
Yeah, the fastest time wasn't set until the very last minute. Babini really went out once more in a bid to improve, and did so even in the final few minutes that were allowed after he came into the box for a brief spell. Looked to end his session earlier than most, but felt he had to come back out, and a good job he did too, because Pietro Armani and Ian Rodriguez both landed decent times towards the end. Daniele Casaniga could yet cause a stir as well. But it's certainly going to be a fraught fight. The big question is Babini going to hold on to the race lead coming in towards turn 1? Remember, he will be handing over to Davide Scanicchio, Pietro Armani and Ian Rodriguez, 2 and 3. Obviously, they were your championship contenders going into yesterday's race. That title, though, sealed right now. The big concern is, of course, Q1 Track Racing and also Fimes Team, with drop scores not applied, level on 52 points.
And remember that it is the top 2 cars that score points for the team's championship. That could be critical with Fimes Team now with a second car in the field. They've been doing the majority of the racing solo, but the sister car joining from the previous race in Barcelona. That's the Matteo Lavisi car that goes from 10th position. Remember, that has to leave the space as if Dieter Streps is in front of him. So we are down to 22 for this final race of the season, sadly. But for one last time in GT Cup Europe in 2025, we're racing for 50 minutes of action. Fabio Babini for Tsunami Racing on driver's right. Pietro Armani for ZRS Motorsport on driver's left. We'll wait for the lights to be extinguished. We're racing for the final time in 2025. Not a great launch at all for Fabio Babini. Straight into the lead has gone Pietro Armani, and 3-4 abreast. The cars fan out across the circuit, trying to get around the slow-moving Tsunami Racing Team car that may have just been able to hang on to second place, but Casaniga getting squeezed off onto the grass on the way into the Rettifilo. He wisely takes to the escape road. A few others feeling the need to do so as well, including the RO1 racing car and Laura van den Hengel as well. All in all, a relatively clean start, much cleaner than yesterday. More cars certainly taking the actual racetrack than the escape road, unlike yesterday. Goncalo Fernandez with a cracking launch, though. He's moved up into 3rd position already, and critically is ahead of the Fimes Team car that they're fighting the championship for. So it is Armani who leads Babini, Fernandez, Rodriguez and Lavisi up from 10th to 5th.
Brilliant start indeed for Fernandez. It was a slow getaway for Babini, which really gave and offered the opportunity to Pietro Armani, who now leads the way. More gravel getting kicked up as well as they head out of the second Lesmo. Some evasive action taken as we run on board here with Laura van den Hengel for this opening stint for the Burgers Motorsport team, who are now celebrating Pro-Am Championship success. Laura van den Hengel becoming the first woman to achieve that feat under the GT Sport banner, alongside Paul Meyer, who has put in a sterling job to take 6 out of 6 qualifying pole positions.
It was a great start for Goncalo Fernandez, but he's been noted for being out of track limits at the start, and so that's that sort of runoff area. There is a white line down the start-finish straight that you're not really supposed to go over with all 4 wheels at the start of the race, and they're deeming he has done so, and may well lose a place here to Ian Rodriguez. They're side-by-side coming out of the curva Alboreto for 3rd position here. Meanwhile, Cosmo Papi has taken the lead in the AM category in 9th position overall over Nathan Brawns and Velasco, the pole sitter, now down in 3rd position. But here is Ian Rodriguez, the Guatemalan, who isn't late enough on the brakes. That was a big effort there from Goncalo Fernandez, the sister car, goes across the escape road, as did the Daniel Casaniga car.
For the second time running, he's had to do that as well after going off at the very start of the race. Also going off was Nicholas Salins for Q1 Track Racing. Also, Pietro Armani still with the lead. Babini now has crept down the rear. Contact now also between Rodriguez and Fernandez. Fernandez going the long way round, but it becomes the inside for the return around the fourth or the fifth corner, coming out of the Rogier and also making his way through. Is what looks to be Levisi, yes, Matteo Levisi. Now
just the
up
sister car.
and ahead into fourth place, ahead of Rodriguez. Fimes team under pressure. Back through, though, comes Rodriguez and returns the serve immediately. Pops himself back into fourth. Fernandez, though, the big winner in all that, into third place is our winner from last time out at Barcelona.
Levisi wasn't exactly playing ball with the sister car, was he? He was really squeezing him over to the inside. And there is a championship on the line here, guys. So they are battling it out there pretty fiercely. Top two starting to pull clear while all this is going on. Lorenzo Bontempelli has to give back 2 positions after cutting the second chicane. But this is Armani under pressure from Fabio Babini, recovering from that difficult start for the Tsunami Racing Team car. That is the second of the Q1 Track Racing cars, Nicholas Salins, trying to get around the Cosmo Papi car, that should be. So the AM leader. I think Salins has dropped a place. Yes, he's fallen behind Eugenio Pisani. Here comes Babini for the lead of the race on the outside of the Rettifilio, but Armani breaking very late into the corner, runs a little bit wide, but doesn't open up the door for Armani to go through. More straight lining of the chicane, both the Q1 Track Racing cars doing so that time around. That was Salins and Nathan Brawns. So we are right on board with Babini once again, who's soaking up the slipstream of the ZRS Motorsport car in front of him. A switch over to the inside now. There's not a Porsche's gap in there, though, as Goncalo Fernandez continues to cling on to that third place spot. But remember, he's under investigation for breaking the track limits at the start of the race. Now, what happened in those couple of corners there for Fabio Babini? Because suddenly he's several car lengths behind the race leader.
Yeah, really strange. I must say, he was purple over the course of the last lap. Obviously, we saw them come together, coming through the first sector as there we see the toes being dropped into the gravel. That was Nicholas Salins, incidentally, just dipping his toes in. That might cause a few problems for him, though it is his teammates, by and large, in behind of Nathan Brawns, who's now going to look to move up, as is Rodriguez now, who's now into third. Fernandez now dropping down into fourth. Levisi has also popped himself ahead of Goncalo Fernandez too. So Q1 have just had a driver dispatched lower and now in front of, well, no, not in front of Levisi. Levisi now ahead of him as they now watch them come down through towards the Kerber Alboreto section. Casaniga second in the Pro-Am class. It's wheel to wheel now as in comes Fernandez side by side once more with Levisi as they creep around Kerber Alboreto once more. This has opened up the gap now for Rodriguez to pounce on as they bomb down the long straight leading through towards the Rettifilio, and there are the corrections. Levisi up to fourth, Fernandez down to fifth, Casaniga also part of this too. Very nearly a trio, but going 3 wide on the run down towards the first chicane on the course. In comes Casaniga, wheel to wheel now, this time with Levisi. Levisi being left in the dust here by Fernandez here this time, who makes his way through the apex of the first chicane at the Rettifilio and comes out of it now ahead of Levisi this time.
Fastest lap of the race by Pietro Armani, pulled 0.6 of a second over Babini, who was really pressuring him on that previous lap. It's all go for fourth, though, with Fernandez and Levisi swapping places. Great start to this race from the young Italian, who's back in Porsche Cup machinery as he was last year. Started the year in the Ferrari, but back in more familiar equipment that he fought for the title with last year.
Federico Al Rafai, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a close fight there with Ludwig and Velasco. But coming up from 10th on the grid, battling for fourth position now and for the lower podium spots as well that his teammate currently holds, and is starting to pull away from the sister car now as Fernandez defends to the inside. It's the 2 SP Racing cars that are lying astern at the moment, with Eugenio Pisani right behind Casaniga. And then Nathan Brawns, the AM class leader, doing a great job to pile on the pressure there on those cars. So here comes Levisi again, ducking towards the inside at the Alboreto curve, but nothing doing when they get down into the final corner of the lap. But it's nose to tail on the exit of the corner, with Fernandez again holding onto the inside line, and Lovisi soaking up the slipstream. It's Q1 Track Racing versus Fimes team. These are the two teams that are fighting for the team's championship here today. There's a gap on the inside. Lovisi doesn't take it, pulls to the outside line. Big outbraking maneuver here. Too late on the brakes. He's going to have to give that place back.
Yeah, no question. Came in way too hot there. The rear slipping out as well for Q1 Track Racing and AM leader Nathan Braun's. So now we see Lovisi and Goncalo Fernandez going side by side. Looks like Fernandez now is going to be warranted that place back by Lovisi here this time around in recompense after what happened heading in towards the first chicane. As now they head down in towards the second one at the Rogier. You can just see there further back Nicholas Sadens on the tail of Nathan Braun's as they look to whip around the first of the Lesmo. A surprise move here from Lovisi at the inside of Fernandez. Left that very late in a bid to unlock the door. The two Porsches now wheel to wheel. There's a whole queue of them in behind, but Lovisi getting the job done, moving through the second Lesmo as the dust gets kicked up from the cars in front belonging to Rodriguez.
That wasn't unlocking the door, George. That was police raiding barging its way through with the Ram. Incredible stuff from Matteo Lovisi. A very aggressive move to take fourth position from Goncalo Fernandez there. And this is Fabio Babini, very, very close to the back of the race leader. Now is that what happened a couple of laps ago where the gap suddenly opened up? So, you'd say Armani definitely gained there, didn't he?
Well, I can tell you that car 53, the team manager's got a report to race control, so that is Goncalo Fernandez.
That'll be for the start.
Yeah, for the issue created. Obviously, remember, had a very quick getaway, likely to receive a reprimand for that. And earlier, or just before that, he's now got an encroaching car creeping over the rear of him now, belonging to Casaniga. Pisani also involved in this too, I believe, as they come through turn one. And on the outset now of turn one, coming through turn two. Nathan Braun's also in the midst of this scrap as well, but Casaniga profiteering and able to get past Fernandez for that fifth place.
Well, there was contact there, I think, between the 55 and Goncalo Fernandez. That just made the Q1 Track Racing car a little bit sideways going into the first chicane. Here comes Nathan Braun's, showing his nose in the second of the Q1 Track Racing cars it is now. He's ahead of his Pro-Am teammate Nicholas Salens, who is the bronze driver in that Pro-Am pairing. The leaders make their way out of Lesmo 2. They're 2.6 clear of Rodriguez and a further 3 clear. And it's a 5-second time penalty for Goncalo Fernandez for leaving the track and gaining an advantage at the start of the race.
There we are. Open shut case on part of the stewards. They've determined that 5 seconds will be applied to Fernandez. So puts more pressure on our race winners, well, two-time race winners this season. Race winner back at our earlier round in the campaign when we went racing, of course.
Whoa. There's a bit of debris that came off of someone's car, I think, with a trip over the curbs. Meanwhile, Riccardo Romagnoli has had to come into pit lane. He didn't set a time in quali. Hopefully that's not the same issue that's brought him in there. Meanwhile, side by side for the lead of the race at the end of lap number 6. Babini just pulling half a car length, but the ZRS Motorsport car coming back with the side draft down there. He's going to be on the outside line is Armani, Babini on the inside. And Armani cutting the chicane a little bit, runs Babini into the gravel trap. That's going to be a contentious moment. Through goes Rodriguez into second place.
Yeah, the damage has been done there really for Babini now, with Rodriguez being allowed to go through. Obviously, they're not in contest for anything in this race, but Fimes team certainly are, and Rodriguez is going to snap his hand off as R01 Racing's Camel Perrion and Florentin Sescu, and now currently moved to the side. A very aggressive line taken again from Armani coming through the Rogier chicane, but Rodriguez starting to get ever closer to the back of the ZRS Motorsport car as they come through the first of the 2 Lesmo now. Purple first sector now from Bontempelli further back as we get the yellow flags open for turn 1, obviously in response to the incident. And let's see what happened here between Babini and the ZRS car belonging to Pietro Armani. This time Armani very aggressive coming through out of turn 2. I'm sure the stewards will take a dim view of that one.
Yeah, look, I know there's not an awful lot of space down there, but he was off the track.
Yeah.
So that is technically what you'd call an unsafe rejoin.
Yeah.
With forcing another competitor off the road. So open door there, and not a great response from the Tsunami Racing team. Garage.
Justifiable, I'd say.
Yeah,
probably at this point.
He's gone from the tail of the leader to now 2.5 seconds off. Pietro Armani has Fabio Babini.
Warnings for other cars out on track as well. 11 of Nicolas Salen's and the 21 also receiving a warning of Florentin Sescu, but Sescu's car now off at the side. So, you know, he's gone a little bit further than track limits really for now.
It's definitively off the track.
It is now.
And it's just been put behind the barrier there, so should be able to get this covered under local yellows.
Nathan Braun's and Eugenio Pisani also swapping over as well. Braun's, of course, still leading the AM class, but more importantly now getting himself up into P7 ahead of Eugenio Pisani, who now drops down into 8th place as a result of the move, coming through turn 1, as we now see Babini still floating ahead of Lavisi by 2.3 seconds. That update now comes through on our timing screen with Braun's now over to P7. Let's take a look at the slow-mo of this moment. There's Pisani just in behind Goncalo Fernandez.
Definitely contact then that we saw earlier.
Nudge in the rear of Fernandez's car. Pisani obviously lost a lot of momentum as well because he took a very long run coming out of turn 2, opening the door for Nathan Braun's to just move on and swan on past Pisani's car. But of course later they would have to come together again, therefore unlocking the door. Nathan Braun's managing to move back through Pisani after he'd retaken the place back at turn, for 6th place at turn 2. As they now whip through Ascari, there's Fimes team's Rodriguez closing up on Armani, 0.8 of a second still the gap at the moment. Babini left down in 3rd by 1.9 seconds. Lavisi 2.2 behind. My goodness me, that was a very wide moment for Nicolas Salens. Took a very wide line on the outset of the Ascari chicane, and I honestly thought for a split second it wasn't just him, mind you. We did see Cosimo Papi do exactly the same, and Velasco has moved past Papi. He's now all over the tail of Salens as a consequence of going so wide through the chicane.
Velasco was off the road himself, wasn't he? So all three of them taking a very wide trip out of Ascari. It's Velasco now trying to round up Nicolas Salens. He was just ahead at the timing line by 0.03 of a second. See what happens when they get down into the first corner. Meanwhile, Pietro Armani doing the fastest lap of the race, but only 0.7 of a second ahead of Ian Rodriguez. So we're going to see those wide moments again. So Salens goes off, and then almost in sympathy, Velasco and Papi kind of do the same thing.
A synchronized run out of the Ascari chicane that could have ended in tears. I must say they were quite fortunate, really, because it's very unpredictable how the gravel can behave sometimes. And speak of the devil, we just witnessed again Ivan Velasco a bit overzealous coming through the Rogier chicane, and therefore very nearly paying the price, but did well to keep it on the course. In behind him is Nicolas Salens still with Cosimo Papi for company, and that battle will continue to rubble on. Nathan Braun's now on the tail of Goncalo Fernandez. This time he's left Pisani behind, so that's a distant memory, that encounter. He's more determined to try and trump up here on Fernandez, but of course they're both sharing seat time with Q1 Track Racing, so I'm sure they'll be looking to work together because they know what's at stake. It's the team's title, as now we see Rodriguez as part of the other title contenders trying to make the big moves on Pietro Armani for the race lead.
It's closing up at the front once again. Just 0.6 of a second when they went over the line. Oh, yeah, now that is a slow-moving Lamborghini, isn't it? A big chunk of the bodywork's gone. That's got to be Ivan Velasco's car, isn't it? Yes, it is. So the whole front bodywork element has come off there. Safety car deployed, and unsurprisingly, that is a big piece of Lamborghini that is in the middle of the road.
That's shocking news as well for Fabio Babini.
Look, safety car boards, boys.
Yeah.
Because they were racing going into a yellow flag zone already.
Wheel to wheel, heading down into turn 1. Not a sensible decision. Still the LMR Motorsport car as well parked up from the formation lap with, I believe, Dieter Schwepp still there, stood by it. And there's Ivan Velasco. A very unwelcome return to Monza for our former champion, who has won it twice over. Of course, with Jorge Cabezas, and then the season later, Luca Ludwig.
We are leaving quite the flurry of GT Cup machinery in the runoff areas of this circuit, because you've got Dieter Schweppes down at turn 3. And, oh, God, that was a huge moment. Wow.
That is quite
a big
some impact.
hit into the barriers. And, yeah, no wonder the front's come off it, because he's had a huge high-speed moment going around Ascari, and good heads-up driving there from Laura van den Hengel, because cars were slowing up
at the same
to
point.
avoid the debris.
At the same point where they had that extreme runoff as well, the lap also prior, where they just skated over the gravel. He was fortunate not to pay the price on that occasion.
Probably gravel on the circuit.
Well,
and
very
hasn't
likely.
adjusted for it, but yeah. So we've got a Lamborghini parked at turn 10, one of the Porsches parked at turn 1, and then Dieter Schweppes parked at turn 3. So your whistle-stop tour of Monza via GT Cup machinery may take a little longer than usual.
Well, the car belonging to Pietro Armani, team managers once again been asked to report to race control immediately. So there's going to be some further discussions, I'm sure, about some of the moves that have been made out on track. There have been a few overzealous decision-making moments for Pietro Armani through the course of this race, hence has brought him to the lead dance as now the cars look to go to the support of Ivan Velasco, and of course the rest of the competitors brought down to Delta under the safety car here, with Armani leading the field. Fastest lap currently lap 9 for car 91 of Ian Rodriguez. It was a 1:48.397 and settled in place at 192.3, near 0.4 kilometers an hour. And that was done over the last lap.
So the driver change window is going to open in 2 minutes' time. I would imagine that will be delayed a little bit, which might help to counteract the...
It is going to be postponed. They've just
there you go.
confirmed
Literally just come up, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course, if you've got your quick driver in at the moment, this safety car's a bit of a nightmare. If you're carrying a fair bit of handicap, this safety car is a bit of a nightmare.
Right now, it's terrible news for them, largely.
Yeah, so Q1 Track Racing's number 11, that's got 15 seconds of handicap, so when Stina's Longin gets aboard, but again, quick driver at the end, but with this safety car window being postponed, the pit window being postponed, then Stina's Longin's going to have less time in the car, isn't he? So that's the trade-off there. 15 seconds as well for H. de Mello in the GDL AM car.
Here's a replay of the moment again. You just see the rear stepping out on the escape.
He nearly held it.
He nearly did. I mean, the rear is stuck for quite some time. Of course, we're seeing it in slow motion. We'll see it again properly now. Just got over the car. I think he just trod too far coming through the latter part, that final left part of the Ascari chicane, and it just sent the rear one angle. And then, of course, the snapback came in, and he just was veered into the barrier.
Yeah, it's too much curb. There's gravel in there as well, so loses the back end, overcorrects it, and then it ends up in the barrier.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think. Obviously, Paul Meyer is to come in the second part of this race in the Burgers car, but that's also got 10 seconds of handicap, so that's going to be quite a tall order for Paul Meyer in the second part of this race. Obviously, yesterday's race winner, Goncalo Fernandez Larzainen, they're taking 10 seconds, and I've got a 5-second penalty anyway.
Matteo Lovisi and Ludovico Laurini have got a great chance here.
They do, don't they? Because they've got no handicap.
No handicap, and also at the same time, I mean, Fime's team flying at the crest of a wave at the moment after winning the championship, and Lovisi, no slouch, and neither is really Laurini either. Ludovico Laurini, of course, coming here at his home circuit. It could be a big weekend for them to close out this season.
So watch out for the car in 4th position then, because, well, yeah, Armani and Ludovico Longoni, they've got 5 seconds of handicap. So you would think that the 93 would sort of move ahead of them anyway, with this safety car bunching them all back up again. So yeah, it could be game on between those two cars. Because you normally anticipate the silver class cars going to find their way towards the front, but may well have some Pro-Am cars that stick around for a little bit. But yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare for likes of Fabio Babini and Casaniga, for example.
Lovisi's last podium, and only podium this season, back at Hockenheim, race 1. So it'll be a welcome return back. Of course, he did that with Davide Laurini last time. See a different driver alongside him this time in the Porsche, with Ludovico Longoni, Olarini alongside him. So it's going to be an interesting contest now for them, and obviously in Porsche machinery, much like he was last season. So we'll see whether he can convert that 0 handicap into some success now that we're under the safety car period.
So 27 minutes left on the clock. And we are under safety car conditions in the final race of the season for GT Cup Europe. Pietro Armani leads the way for ZRS Motorsport, then Ian Rodriguez for Fimes team, and Fabio Babini leading the Pro-Am battle for Tsunami Racing Team. Matteo Levisi is 4th in the second of the Fimes team cars. Daniel Casaniga, 2nd in Pro-Am for SP Racing. And Goncalo Fernandez, yesterday's race winner, in 6th position. Nathan Braun still leading the AM category in the 57 Q1 track racing car. Hoping for a second victory at the season there, the Belgian squad. You got Eugenio Pisani in the 2nd of the SP cars, 3rd in Pro-Am. So it's a 2-3 in Pro-Am at the moment for the Eugenio Pisani-led outfit. Cosimo Papi 2nd in AM for Ebby Motors, and then H. De Mello 3rd for GDL. Safety car is in this lap. So we await news for the driver change. Here we go. Driver change starts at 1600.
3 minutes.
So that is two and a half minutes time. So basically after 1 lap.
Yeah. So it'll only be just around the corner. Not a huge delay in terms of the driver change period. But then again, it's going to eat into the remaining race time as well. So there's going to be a reduced window for certain drivers here. Unless, of course, you are, I suppose, the bronze driver in this case, in which, you know, you'll look to come in as soon as you can. But a huge opportunity here for many. Obviously, not ideal for Fabio Babini. Levisi will look to strike while the iron's hot here. This could be a very crucial couple of laps now, or certainly 1 lap, to bring the car into the pits. As to whether he decides to go first and allow Longoni out, we'll have to wait and see.
So Pietro Armani leading the field, leading the safety car, go. And Ian Rodriguez hot on his heels. Armani puts his foot to the floor. We are back to green flag conditions here at Monza. 25 minutes left on the clock and a minute and a half until the driver change window opens. It's the ZRS Motorsport car that leads them over the line with the 2025 champion Ian Rodriguez right in the wheel tracks, pulls out to the outside. Levisi making a move as well for 3rd position, and Rodriguez gets in too deep, and Armani himself cuts across the road. The only driver in the top 4 there to actually take the chicane was Fabio Babini.
Yeah, undertaking it. Obviously now Babini in 3rd place. Levisi also very nearly missing it entirely, but still tried to make his way round, chasing after Fabio Babini at the moment. Babini now having a look this time on Rodriguez, coming down in towards the Rogier. Armani giving some clairvoyance up at the front. Cosimo Papi has got past Nicholas Salins as well by extension, so a great effort on his part as now they fly through the first Lesmo. The gravel being kicked up again. It looks like it was all behind Laura van den Hengel by and large of it, as we now see the cars make their way through the first and soon-to-be 2nd Lesmo. But 2 silver class competitors leading the way. Rodriguez now needs to reclose the gap between himself and Armani. Babini being dragged along by the same notion. There further back, we just saw Cosimo Papi looking to dig deep into the back of Eugenio Pisani, and we see Casaniga fanning out as well from 5th place, looking all over the back of Levisi as they fly through Ascari again under green flags. Privatello moving past Georgi. The Lamborghini now up into 15th.
Oh, I think that was a Levisi that time who kicked up a lot of the dirt, and Daniel Casaniga fancies taking advantage of that. So it's side by side for 4th with the SP car, the number 9 on the outside, and taking that place from Levisi. He was supposed to be moving forward. Instead, he's moving backwards. He's going to fight back on the exit of the corner, but Rodriguez headed straight for pit lane by the looks of it, because the driver change window is now open. And, it's a 3-second time penalty for the race leader for contact with Fabio Babini.
Yeah, 3-second time penalty. So the punishment has been issued. That means it's going to be very hard now for both Armani and Longoni to bring home the big result here in our final race of the 2025 season. The whole pit lane filled with cars Laura van den Hengel in, Paul Meyer will step up, Nicholas Seilen-Steen is long in now, swapping over for car 11, the 403 also undergoing a change as well, with Diego De Fabio now taking over the running of the car. Armani, Babini, Levisi, Casaniga staying out, Braun's now behind Fernandez. We have a big squabble, there's Fernandez now, Paul Meyer getting set up in the car as the netting is put across by Laura van den Hengel, who looks to move her way past her engineers as they look to put the tyres on the car as they now move through the two Lesmo sections. Now there's Nathan Braun's, joined by Pisani, who has a look up the inside straight away. Looks to go aggressive, coming through the second Lesmo.
Contact.
And that is surely going to lead to the gravel, and it certainly does. In a cloud of smoke, there he is.
It's the AM leader.
AM leader Nathan Braun's in the gravel, and will surely forfeit that AM lead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a shame that Q1 track racing car, of course, they're fighting for the team's championship. But Nathan Braun's will rejoin the road, so that gives it to Cosmo Papi now in the Ebby Motors car, the number 23. So it's Armani who leads for now, Babini in second, but that ZRS car carrying a 3-second time penalty now. Levisi retaking Daniel Casaniga. We're going to see the contact again here for Nathan Braun's, getting pitched there by the Eugenio Pisani SP car. And a pirouette there for Nathan Braun's, the former VW Fun Cup racer. Gets back on his way. In comes Armani.
Yeah, coming in after receiving the penalty. Well, now need to be quick about this. Ludovico Longoni getting set to jump into the car. And, of course, all eyes on Matteo Levisi, who still remains out on track as well at the same time, chasing down after Babini, who's also going to do the monster and the fair share of this stint. We've got 5 minutes and 13 until the driver change period comes to an end. Lars Zane and Goncalo Fernandez swapping over. Zanen jumping into the Porsche. And coming off the back of a sensational win in yesterday's race one, as the GDL team also undertake their changes. 54 of H. de Mello stepping in, of course, in that Porsche. Sebastian Fortuna also jumping in place of Luigi Peroni. As we take a look at this moment for the number 8 Lamborghini. Of course, that is Donovan Privatello.
Well, he managed to save it before he did what he did yesterday, which was arrive at turn 1 backwards, which I'm sure would have caught his attention. So Casaniga here on the back of Matteo Levisi, still for what is currently second position, but these cars yet to do their mandatory pit stop. So Casaniga, the silver class driver, as is Matteo Levisi.
Casaniga, close quarter at the moment. He's looking really strong, isn't he? Once again, I mean, he was got to say, impressive in qualifying. Yesterday's race also was a pretty good one for Casaniga. Now on the tail of Levisi, giving him a few headaches, I have to say, as they come in towards Alboreto corner. Of course, Babini still continuing. Purple first sector for Cosmo Papi on this lap, I have to say. Nathan Braun's recovering very nicely. Green in the first sector, purple in the middle. So Nathan Braun's AM run is not over yet. He's only 2.9 away. He's now into the pits. Comes Casaniga and Levisi as well. And no handicap, bear in mind, for Levisi.
Yeah, second and third place cars in. There is 5 seconds for the Casaniga car as a new entry. This is Ludovico Larini taking over the number 93. This could be a well-placed car come the end of the race. Keep an eye on Fabio Babini, who of course is going to be handing over to his bronze driver in the second part of the race, Davide Scanicchio. So in theory, that silver class car should be quicker in the second part of this race. As Fabio Babini continues to circulate at the front. 5.5 seconds advantage now over Eugenio Pisani, who's his nearest class rival. Giacomo Gibergia in the pits for the GDL squad. Who else is in there as well? The 57. So Nathan Braun's coming in to hand over to Nico van Dierendonk, team manager at Q1 Track Racing.
Had a largely successful run as a team in the GT Cup Europe Championship. 3 consecutive times teams champions in the past until the spell was broken by Ferrari's Mertel Motorsport. They went on to win it 2 years running. It was Q1 looking to grasp their title back, but they're going to need help from several members of their team in order to usurp the Fimes team approach. And Fimes team obviously with a huge chance with Matteo Levisi and Ludovico Larini. It's now Babini who's leading the race still, yet to come in. He comes in now and will get set to hand over to Davide Scanicchio, who'll be standing by. We've got 2 minutes left in our driver change period, and it looks like Eugenio Pisani also coming in. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cosimo Papi and Privitello also look to come into the pits as well, allowing Laurini to take over the race lead. Of course, remember, like we said, Laurini not required to serve a handicap, so therefore they will reap the benefits of it, and you'd fathom that they will take this race lead.
Yeah, so they have come out ahead of Ludovico Longoni, and 3 seconds ahead at the moment, so that's the 5-second handicap playing a part there as the son hands over to the father in the Scuderia Viterbo Corsa run Lamborghini Super Trofeo. So Cosimo Papi hands over to his teammate Paolo Nemi. It's a new addition for this season. But there is the 91. Where have they come out? In probably a net third position there behind both their teammate and Ludovico Longoni. In fact, actually, behind Diego De Fabio as well in 4th position.
Yeah, 4th. Obviously, we're just counting silver drivers. Obviously, 3rd for silver, but of course, they're overall. They don't reap any benefits with Pro-Am featuring in P2 in a net standpoint.
Well, De Fabio's surely got to be a contender for victory. And look at that, Davide Scanicchio side by side with the race leader. But it is Laurini who manages to drive around as Paul Meyer sets the fastest lap of the race. Keep an eye on him to make forward progress during this one. There is Diego De Fabio in the Ferrari. He'll be charging his way through and trying to mount a challenge on the Porsche for now 2nd position, but very shortly the lead.
Yeah, going to be hunting down Laurini. He's already managed to displace Scanicchio, so De Fabio now in P2 as the driver changes now come to an end. It is all now down to this, with 15 minutes and 30 to go. The final race of the GT Cup Europe weekend and final race of the season. We've just got 15 minutes and 30 to take you to the checkered flag. And it's Laurini, Scanicchio down into 3rd after De Fabio made the move. Longoni further back in 4th. And then Zerbi down in 5th, who's currently sat in a Pro-Am P3 position ahead of Luca Franca in P6. Your reigning champion as of yesterday's race. We're right on board here with Paul Meyer, fresh off setting the fastest lap of the race, and on the back of Mike Halder of Halder's Motorsport, who is now making their first appearance in the GT Cup Europe this weekend. They're currently sat in P10 with Meyer now looking to break inside that top 10 with a huge amount of gravel getting kicked up on the right-hand side. We've seen a little bit of that already today as now the 55 and the 9 look to duke it out. In comes as well the 56 of the Peter Furter car. Diego Nunes behind the wheel this time around for the 2nd stint. He moves through now this time and starts to climb his way through some of the braces. Andrea Galli part of this, Stefano Zerbi as well, not too far away. They're going to fly down the long straight. Paul Meyer on the rear of this. We've now got a side-by-side battle for the race lead. Laurini keeping De Fabio at bay. No answer here given by De Fabio in the initial. A great effort, but not quite enough, as now a huge swarm. Oh my goodness, a car getting onto the grass as Paul Meyer has to cut the chicane and moves up alongside the 741.
That was Lars Zanen who went off and straight-lined the chicane, and Diego De Fabio looks like he's moved into the lead of the race now. Yes, he has. So he's out-dragged the Porsche, because we taken the Pro-Am lead already away from Davide Scanicchio, and now the overall lead. Now, can that car make it to the finish? That's the question. And so Laurini in 2nd for now. Scanicchio will have Ludovico Longoni for pretty close company. This is Paul Meyer trying to get around Mike Hadler. This is for 8th, 9th, and 7th, 8th, and 9th at the moment. Andrea Galli leading Hadler, leading Meyer. All 3 are Pro-Am cars, but Galli is the bronze driver. So that safety car worked out very nicely for the Ferrari, of course, because they've ended up in the lead of the race, but these guys have got some cars to clear. So Hadler to the inside, and Meyer follows him through on the inside at Ascari. So that is 4th, 5th, and 6th in Pro-Am.
Great move there from Halder. Running wide, though, I must say, there as they cross their way through was Galli. Very lucky to get that back on terms as now Paul Meyer looks to open up the door around the outside, coming through towards Kerber Alboreto. Immediately, though, slamming himself back in behind the rear spoiler on the 741 Porsche. Mike Halder, though, for now, in 7th place. As we're now seeing it, they're going to fly down the long straight, and very soon that timing tower will correct itself, this time with Halder in P7 and Meyer in P8. They will indeed now charge down through towards turn 1. Meyer, Pro-Am champion, as of yesterday, alongside Laura van den Hengel. He's going to look to try and end their weekend in great style. Side by side, though, this time, as he goes wheel to wheel with Halder. He's going to go the long way round. Will he be able to commit? Halder leaves it late on the brakes, but he might yet run out of momentum. It looks like it was more in the favour of Paul Meyer, so Curva Grande might yet present an opportunity here for Paul Meyer and Laura van den Hengel in the Hans Beast Motorsport Burgers car as they come down through towards the Rogier. The frustration, I'm sure, mounting here for Paul Meyer, who's going to go late on the brakes. Inside line committed. Halder, though, cuts the chicane and moves back ahead of Paul Meyer.
There wasn't much space for him there, was there? But yeah, certainly gained a fair bit of ground doing that. Wonder if he'll give the place back fully.
I just saw some hand gestures there, I think, in the car.
I'm sure.
Of Paul Meyer there.
So here goes, he's on the inside.
Ooh.
Well, Mike could have backed out of that, couldn't he? He didn't really have much of his car alongside him, but either way, wasn't really given much option. So let stewards decide that one. Doesn't matter. On the inside at Ascari, Paul Meyer gets the move done and moves into 4th position in the Pro-Am category. 1.8 seconds up the road is Diego Nunes, another silver class driver, as Luca Franca moves past Davide Scanicchio for 4th position overall, so clearing the bronze driver. And yeah, Hadler was told to give the place back to Meyer. So he'll try and fight it back. But we know Meyer's been the class of the field, especially in qualifying. 6 sessions he's competed in, 6 pole positions for the Dutch driver.
They storm down through towards turn 1 again. 10 minutes and 45 to go. Franco getting confirmed P4 off the back of the move on Scanicchio. It's side by side further back again between Halder and Meyer. Once more they renew their battle, and Halder getting a lovely run up the inside, which will soon become the outside, but he'll try a switchback coming through Curva Grande, and this time he's in the position that Paul Meyer was in a lap previous. So let's see whether the shoe will be on the other foot this time. Will it be Halder who tries to move up the inside coming through the Rogier chicane? I think Paul Meyer recognises that. Does he cover it off? Not quite. Halder just hesitates a little bit, had a look to the inside, and Meyer will retain P7. Just did not quite have the run, did Halder, in getting the move done. Opted to stay behind, play it safe, and Meyer remains in 7th for now.
A replay of a little bit further back, Lars Zanen. Mike Halder getting around the Luciano Privitello car. So this is earlier in the stint, as Paul Meyer and Halder were charging through some of the bronze drivers. Yeah, that was the moment that Lars Zanen ended up across the road at the Rettifilio chicane and trying to get around the number 9 as well of Andrea Gali.
A lot of curb taken there by Paul Meyer as well. Let's have a look at this. Oh, wow. Okay, that's Cosimo Papi, or at least it
Paolo
was
Nemi.
Paolo Nemi now in the car. Obviously taken a lot of gravel on the run out of the second half of the Ascari chicane.
9 minutes to go. Diego Di Fabio leads 1.2 seconds over Ludovico Larini and Ludovico Longoni. But as it stands, it would be Fime's team who take the team's championship as well. Clean sweep in both drivers overall and teams. And the Pro-Am podium still very much up for grabs, though, with Diego Nunes now past Davide Scanicchio for 2nd position in that category. And you would imagine that Paul Meyer and Mike Halder will follow through in pretty quick succession as well. Andrea Gali and Lars Zanen squabbling over 9th position overall, going towards the Della Rogier chicane. A switch to the inside there for the Belgian driver, and Gali being very complacent in the end, yielding that 9th place spot. Here's Meyer on the inside of Scanicchio, so the pro cars, or the pro drivers in the Pro-Am cars, making their way around Scanicchio now. And Mike Calder, well, now suddenly find himself fighting for a podium in their wildcard appearance.
Been a welcome appearance here for the Halder Motorsport team. Obviously now, with Scanicio dispatched, Paul Meyer inside of 9/10 already on Diego Nunes in 5th at the moment, so the Brazilian driver is going to come under peril, though as they say that, they cross the stripe 1.5 seconds between Meyer and Nunes. Obviously not factoring in the move that was made, obviously not optimal in terms of pace in that middle sector was Paul Meyer, so therefore does lose a little bit of time to Nunes, but now that he's got the clear air, he can now look to close up on the Brazilian.
Well, even last time around, despite battling, was 6/10 quicker than Nunes.
We should be back inside of a second very soon. So we see a flash of the lights from Larini, this time on De Fabio, who still retains the race lead. Obviously, though, I'm sure they would have opted for a different method of fuel application this time after what happened in race 1 yesterday.
Bit of lift and coast as Nunes leads Meyer out of the chicane. That is 2nd and 3rd in Pro-Am. The champions of 2025 in the Pro-Am category right there. And looking to round things out with a place on the rostrum. So into the Della Roggia we go once again. And it's Gianluca Giorgi, meanwhile, who's leading the AM category in the Ebby Motors number 70 car ahead of Giacomo Gibergia and Nico van Dierendonk. That's the top 3 there. So GDL and Q1 Track Racing making up the podium there. So it's still plenty to fight for. 6 minutes left on the clock. Paul Meyer closing onto the back of Nunes here. 4/10 quicker in the first sector on this lap. And in the middle sector, he pulled another 3/10 of a second. So about 3/4 of a second gained so far on this lap by the Pro-Am champion of this year. Down the back straight we go. And Mike Halder, I'm sure, will be waiting in the wings. He told me that we're not here to necessarily compete, we're just here to get the lay of the land and evaluate a effort for next year. There is the Burgers team, the Hans Weiss Motorsport squad, Laura van den Hengel watching her teammates, but I'm sure giving a cheeky little yee-haw for the Dutch cowgirl with every move that Paul Meyer makes.
Could be a yee-haw for a Pro-Am podium here. It's currently sat Pro-Am P3 as it stands. And on the tail of Diego Nunes as it stands too. So it could be a Pro-Am P2 come the end of this, with De Fabio still locking on to the Pro-Am lead and looking to take it right through to the checkered flag. We're now inside the final 5 minutes of this Monza exchange. We're talking approximately now 3 laps, Chris?
Looks that way. So can Nunes hang on to this second place spot? That's the question. There's our race leader, now 1.9 seconds clear of Ludovico Larini at the head of the field. Fimes team set to come home in 2nd position. I'm sure the team will be watching the fuel gauges, though, on that Easy Race Ferrari, just to make sure that there's enough in the tank to get them to the end. So 3 silver class cars in hot pursuit, but that safety car working out very nicely for Easy Race, and of course no handicap for them either. That's what's helped to launch them to the front of the field. Diego De Fabio did the rest of it. They break into the Alboreto curve. Nice to see a Ferrari back at the head of the field in this championship again. That's what we love seeing in this series, the mix of Porsche, Ferrari and Lamborghini machinery. We've had McLarens and Mercedes also in this series as well over the course of the year. That's 3.5 minutes to go, and yeah, that's going to be nip and tuck for 2 or 3 more laps actually. So we'll know when they get across the line again. Paul Meyer pulling out to the outside though into the first chicane for 2nd position in Pro-Am, 5th position overall in the race. So that was Meyer putting on the pressure, but Larini's taken half a second out of Diego De Fabio here. It's only 1 point, well, it was 1.2. It's gone back out to 1.5 now, with De Fabio gaining in the first sector there, but yeah, seems to be changing sector by sector, the gap now. Paul Meyer still looking at the back of Diego Nunes for second in Pro-Am.
Yep, still looking to dig deep for this P2 in Pro-Am class. Paul Meyer has been very impressive. He's certainly dealt his fair share of racing this year in 2025. Inside now, near enough, the final 2.5 minutes. And of course, Paul Meyer would like to, of course, place his Hansvies Motorsport car just a little bit higher, just to say sayonara to an incredibly successful 2025 campaign. And it looks like Diego Nunes is going to be his next victim as they head out of the Ascari chicane. But Nunes, who has been largely on the pace, I have to say, for the second stint now after taking over from Peter Furter. Well, he's back to have certainly the battle brought to him this time, as Meyer looks to take a wider line coming through towards Kerber Alboreto, which could serve him very nicely. Heading down the long straight, has Nunes got enough to keep Meyer at bay? I would largely not expect so. Will Meyer give an almighty yeehaw as they sprint down the long straight to put both himself and Laura van den Hengel in the P2 echelons of the Pro-Am podium? Very nearly side by side. Can't quite get alongside fully. Nunes just keeping the door nicely shut as they come through turns 1 and now on the outset of turn 2. Still though, nose to tail as they come through Curva Grande here this time. Paul Meyer, the Dutchman, looking to flex his muscles here at the Temple of Speed. Nunes doing his damnedest to keep the Burgers Motorsport Porsche at bay. But now here comes the opportunity once again. Paul Meyer looking to the outside to become the inside. He's going to leave it late on the brakes. Put the brakes back on though firmly. Looks to try and send a dummy over to Nunes, who somehow holds on. And now Paul Meyer swiftly held back, very nearly losing out as well in return to Mike Halder, who's back on his tail.
This is for second, third and fourth in Pro-Am with a lap and a half remaining now in this battle. And this was a little too close for comfort there for Paul Meyer. And I think Nunes there rightly deciding to cut across the chicane. And probably no quarter given there in the end. And race leader will be starting his final lap very shortly. But Nunes still leading Meyer and Halder. Look at that, up 14, 12 and 14 places. De Fabio up 21 spots. That's incredible.
It's a mighty performance from De Fabio.
Incredible. So Nunes defending into the Alboreto curve. We are moving on to the final lap of the race now. Diego De Fabio's gone across the line. He's 1.1 ahead of Ludovico Laurini. So who is going to be joining him on that Pro-Am podium, though? Diego Nunes again giving the slipstream to Paul Meyer, soaking it up down the start and finish straight. Again, Meyer pulls out to the outside. Is he late enough on the brakes this time around? All the way around the outside of the Rettifilio. Has to cut across because there wasn't much space there. And Nunes goes into the gravel. Through goes Halder, takes both of them.
Mike Halder taking the plunge, and ultimately, after the demise of Diego Nunes coming out of turn 2 off the back of the move that was made between both he and Paul Meyer. Meyer went round the long way round, but went in so deep and therefore had to commit to the curb on the escape. He might get a reprimand for that. The big profiteer off the back of it, though, Mike Halder, moving up now into Pro-Am P2 here in this classification.
We talked about yeehaw moments. That was more of a bucking bronco moment there for Paul Meyer over the curbs. This is the race leader, though, Diego De Fabio, 1.1 seconds ahead of Ludovico Laurini. Lorenzo Bontempelli can hardly believe it, from 22nd on the grid. And now fighting for an overall race win. It's not the first time we've seen the lower class cars fighting for overall honours at the head of the field, but it is seldom seen. That incident between Meyer and Nunes will be investigated after the race, no surprise there. But all eyes on the easy race Ferrari, which gets up towards the timing line now. Diego De Fabio and Lorenzo Bontempelli take victory in the final race of the season of GT Cup Europe here in Monza. And a big thumbs up from Bontempelli as De Fabio brings it across the line. Pro-Am victory assured, as well as Ludovico Laurini brings the 93 Fimes team car home to win the team Teams Championship for the Italian outfit. Ludovico Longoni and ZRS Motorsport complete the overall podium, with Luca Franca and Ian Rodriguez just missing out on the overall podium. But it's Mike Halder and his eponymous team with René Poulsen who take the podium in Pro-Am. Paul Meyer and Laura van den Hengel completing it. And victory goes to Gianluca Giorgia and the Ebi Motors team, with Giacomo Bergia and Nico van Durendonk for Q1 Track Racing completing the order there. Another late drama there for Paolo Nemi going out of Ascari, but it's Ferrari back on top in GT Cup Europe.
Our 5th different teams champion in the last 7 outings in the GT Cup Europe Championship. The first one back in 2019, won by Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. Of course, Paporo Motorsport also winning it back in 2020. Q1 then won it 3 times on the spin from 2021 to 2023, with Mertel capturing the crown in 2024. This time around, though, Fame's team take the championship prize in the team's roster. And they will celebrate, I am sure. Run through the results, Chris.
Lorenzo Bontempelli and Diego De Fabio take victory for Easy Race, 1 second ahead of the Fimes team in the end, with ZRS Motorsport completing the overall podium. Mike Helder and René Poulsen with Paul Meyer and Laura van den Hengel onto the Pro-Am podium. And it's a first Am victory for Gianluca Giorgi at Ebi Motors. He finished inside the top 10. He's joined on the podium by Giacomo Bergia and Nathan Brawns and Nico van Durendonk from Q1 Track Racing. We saw plenty of dramas further down. To be lost, the Ivan Velasco Lamborghini, the Florentin Cescu at Porsche from RO1 Racing, Riccardo Romagnoli and Dieter Sveps sadly never got going in this race. So it was 19 finishers at the line in the end. This is the final championship standings. Ian Rodriguez and Luca Franca are champions in GT Cup Europe in 2025. Ludovico Longoni and Pietro Armani settling for second in the end, with Lance Aynan and Goncalo Fernandez securing third in the championship. Our Pro-Am champions, though, Laura van den Hengel and Paul Meyer, securing 4th overall in the standings. Spectacular efforts from them. We will also have a championship podium here as well, to see that Luca Franca and Ian Rodriguez being called to the podium.
Yeah, obviously an important moment for them, because it was discovered late in the day yesterday that they were in fact crowned champions. So they will get to enjoy the spoils of their 2025 successful season campaign that has seen them capture 4 wins themselves this season. They were just shy of taking yet another podium this campaign as well, racking together some huge numbers. Yeah, they are obviously across the campaign, 6 podiums amassed by Rodriguez and Franca, scoring points in every single race of the season, which has of course been the difference maker. There's now Diego De Fabio, fresh after a fantastic second stint, following suit from Bontempelli's visit. And from the disappointment of yesterday, they celebrate with Vamos here in race 2. The perfect way to bounce back, Chris.
Yeah, great stuff after being denied the victory very late in the race yesterday, with the car slowing down just a couple of minutes left on the clock, but up 21 places from where they started. Remarkable effort there from the Easy Race squad.
Easy Race making it an easy race by and large.
Making it look easy.
Yeah, they certainly did. Though I must say, credit to Ludovico Laurini, only finished a whole second behind come the end of it. Ludovico Longoni, 3rd place at the end as well, but it's a Pro-Am winning overall here in this case. Luca Franca going across to applaud the winning pairing, and Michelin caps on heads, and Pietro Armani of course coming across as well to congratulate them too. Victory going Easy Race's way.
cracking end to GT Cup Europe's campaign, with plenty of new contenders dipping their toes into the water in this race, and hopefully we'll see them back for next year. So Ludovico Longoni and Pietro Armani end the 2025 season with a podium finish for ZRS Motorsport. It is the Fimes team who seal the team's championship with second place for Matteo Lovisi and Ludovico Laurini. But the winners from Easy Race, Diego De Fabio and Lorenzo Bontempelli, making up 21 places in this race, and it's Ferrari back on top.
So we have the winners of the race here in Monza, the last race of the season. Lorenzo Bontempelli, who is not a new face in GT Sport competitions, and Diego Di Fabio. Lorenzo.
Io parlo
The
italiano,
you speak English. Okay, fast. Contento?
Super, è stata una grande gara, un grande risultato, partendo ultimi non potevamo chiedere di meglio.
Yeah, they started last and they finished first, so they are happy. Diego?
It's a pleasure to be here in the final race of the season. But a great comeback from the last position to the first one. Very tricky race, especially yesterday. So we are very happy. We wanted to thank the team.
Well done, bravi. And we have more and we have the champions. You were champions yesterday, but okay, let's celebrate today with Ian Rodriguez and Luca Franca. Ian, a great season.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Honestly, I didn't expect it at the beginning of the season, but yeah, thanks. I have to thank God always, the team, my teammate, my family always, and everybody, because it was really amazing. I'm very happy.
Good pair, good car, good team, new team in the series, and already winning. And Luca, I know you are happy.
This was an incredible season for me, for the team, and I said my first GT season, so I'm very happy, very grateful to stay here. For today, it's not good that we don't take the podium, but are the races, and but the real the real outstanding is the championship.
Yeah, you don't take the podium, but you are here as champions. Well done, guys. Complimenti. Vamos.
Final race of GT Cup Europe in 2025, with ZRS Motorsport taking the whole shot from Fabio Babini, but it was Daniel Casaniga who got squeezed out onto the grass at the first time of asking, braking for the Rettifilio chicane. A few bumps and shuffles, but largely clean running. A bit of a bump between Q1 Track Racing and Fimes team. The protagonists from yesterday's race, they battled through the Della Roggia chicane and into the Lesmo as well, with Matteo Lovisi really showing his nose there on the inside. Bit of a scrap with Babini being pushed onto the grass by the ZRS car Pietro Armani. That allowed in Rodriguez to go through. We went under safety car after this big hit into the wall for Ivan Velasco, with a scary moment at the Ascari chicane, tearing the front of his Lamborghini Super Trofeo off. The Fimes team car tried to take the lead on that safety car restart, but it would be the ZRS car that just held the advantage. A spin for Nathan Brawns after contact with the SB Racing car, pushing him out of the AM lead. The delayed driver change window opened after the safety car restart, and it was Easy Race's Ferrari who had rocketed up the order from the very back of the grid to the very front of it, moving past Ludovico Laurini. Battle for the Pro-Am podium got hot and bothered. Mike Halder taking advantage of that moment in the closing stages of the race. It's Diego De Fabio and Lorenzo Bontempelli who took victory in the final race of the weekend from the back of the grid to the very front. And so to the podium now, it's ZRS Motorsports, Ludovico Longoni and Pietro Armani who finish in third position. Ludovico Larini and Matteo Levisi help Fimes team claim the team's championship here this year with a second place finish. But an extraordinary effort here from Lorenzo Bontempelli. As Alfredo said, no stranger to GT Sport competition, former GT Open driver. And here is the Italian national anthem.
Con la consegna dei trofei.
So a fantastic wildcard appearance for the Italian squad. Plenty to digest from this season. ZRS Motorsport on the podium once again. 7th appearance there for them as they round out the season, second in the standings.
Yeah, marvellous performance from Longoni and Armani this time. Obviously, Levisi, great to see him back too. And in good company once again as they march on to P2 glory and ultimately helping Fimes team capture that team's championship that they've been oh so yearning. And ultimately, a decent finish. I know Luca Franco was disappointed, but still, the important points were accrued as Easy Race celebrates a trophy here at their home circuit, Monza, presented by Championship CEO Jesus Pereira. And you never know, we could see them in for a full-time spell next season, who knows?
Oh, it'd certainly be very welcome for having Ferraris back on the grid again. The team representative on there. But that's all from GT Cup Europe in 2025. Thank you very much for joining us. From George Morgan, myself, Chris Stevens, and all of us at GT Sport. We'll see you in Portimao on the 18th of April in 2026.